Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. We're going to be continuing on with letter 9, reading that, the next 4 pages. And I usually put in the description what each letter is about. And basically, this letter is wrapping up all of the previous letters. And Christ is going to take us through a very clear rundown of how to live in peace and harmony as individuals and together. He also touches on racism, and he has a message of love and encouragement for any who are called to read these letters or to listen to them. So let's go ahead and get started. Whilst my purpose in coming to you through the medium of these letters has been to show you the way to live in harmony with the laws of existence, to help you avoid unnecessary pain, limitations, and deprivation caused by your ignorance of the laws, I also want to imprint in your consciousness that everyone is subject to rhythms in their lives. Everyone goes through high periods when an inflow of blessedness brings you all the things you have wanted, and you are on a peak of human happiness and success. You rejoice. Then comes the time when suddenly the rhythm of life changes. Resources dry up, relationships become difficult and precarious. Your career takes a downward turn, or obstacles occur which keep you static for a long time. You may ask yourself what you have done wrong. Previously, you worked very successfully within the laws of existence, but now there are daily challenges, and nothing you think or do is truly alleviating the stress of your daily life. If these times come upon you, be still and quiet within your heart and mind, and know that you are still drawing life and direction from divine consciousness, despite appearances to the contrary, despite the superficial agonies. At these times, it is essential to withdraw and take stock of the ways in which you may have slipped in consciousness during your up times, and strengthen your dependence on divine consciousness. Without these dark periods of depression, you would not grow in spiritual stature. They have a special message for you, so do not give way to despair or bitterness. Although you may feel fragile, this is your winter season of self-discovery and inner renewal, which will ultimately prove to be a greater blessing than ever were your peak periods. Take heart and do not lose faith. Hold on patiently until winter gradually yields to your spiritual spring again. Persevere in relaxing and confidently waiting for the time when divine life will again flow into your mind, heart, and earthly life, and all you had hoped for will begin to manifest in your experience. And throughout this time, realize and hold on to the fact that if you are no longer aware of the inflow of divine consciousness during your meditations, it is not because you have been abandoned, but because your own cosmic and therefore your personal consciousness vibrations are at a low ebb, and you are no longer able to rise to experience the vibrations of divine consciousness as you did previously. Although you may not feel them, rest assured that always you are enfolded in them and in divine love. I also want to remind you and impress your consciousness that the moment the most impoverished of human beings can understand the true nature of their origins and make use of the knowledge, they can begin to pull themselves out of their rut, and they then rise to any heights they choose for themselves, providing daily they tune into the source of their being and draw on its infinite power, life, direction, inspiration, and guidance. You are not victims of fate. You are victims of your own creative consciousness until you realize that your consciousness is entirely of your own shaping. When this glorious truth dawns within your consciousness, you will begin to turn your life around and will eventually discover that you can work to become a master and achieve complete freedom in divine consciousness. Try to remember that in your spiritual search, your aim should be to keep your consciousness frequencies as steady as possible within your highest spiritual perceptions. This is extremely difficult for the human mind to do, since it eagerly reaches out for new forms of spiritual/mental stimulation wherever the interest is aroused. But I have to tell you, it is not enough to read these letters and then turn to other books, hoping to find some higher, more inspirational truth. I, the Christ, tell you truly, there is no higher truth or higher way on offer to you at this time. You may sometimes feel you have found something higher because on the level of your present human consciousness, you can relate to what is written more easily. But you can rest assured that spiritual truth of existence is the only knowledge which will bring you eventually to Christ consciousness, which is your true destination and none other. Christ consciousness is the spiritual consciousness of all the great masters. There is no higher. To increase your understanding, you may seek out those authors who have already found for themselves and are practicing what is written in these letters. But do not follow those who still follow other writers and quote other authorities, and are still seeking a way through human thought into the vastness of spiritual truth beyond human thought. They, like themselves, are still in the foothills of consciousness. They have not yet penetrated the mental/emotional ozone to draw close to the precincts of space. Do not follow those who are finding pleasure in and writing of marvels in occult practices and are seeking to lead you into experiencing them also, advocating the use of material substances to increase energy in different areas of your lives. When you use material substances, such as crystals, candles, incense, joss sticks, that's JOSS. I'm not sure what those are. I'll have to look that up and I'll put it in the description. My first thought would be like divining rods or some kind of divining tools like pendulums. I'm not sure. I will look it up. You focus your human consciousness on those things which have human meaning for you and give you pleasure. In this way, do they anchor your human consciousness to the effects of human consciousness, continually leading you back into fixed levels of human consciousness. Whereas, if you want to ascend into true spiritual dimensions of consciousness, your goal is to penetrate and then transcend the earthly human consciousness dimension. The only true energy, true dynamic healing life force comes from your consistent contact with divine consciousness. As you journey upwards, you will become acquainted with the finer vibrations of the astral planes. But do not loiter in these levels, since they are only manifestations of higher physical forms of consciousness and should not be your true goal. Attunement with divine consciousness and total self-mastery should be your reason for living and your only goal. When you have achieved it, all you have ever wanted for yourself will be yours in a new, transcendent, and eternal way. You may read these letters and decide you want to continue as you are, in your ego consciousness, trusting divine consciousness to help you through the difficult patches. But I can tell you that life itself will eventually convince you that any other way does not bring the rewards which your soul, hidden and silently waiting for release, is longing to experience, particularly that of full reunion with divine consciousness. The greatest gift you can give yourself or anyone else is to gratefully accept into your own mind and try to imbue in other receptive minds the full inspired understanding of who you and they really are and what can truly be accomplished when you and they abandon self-will and look to the source of their being for help, guidance, and fulfillment of every need. Become a light to yourself and whomever can receive it. At the same time, no one can absorb learning on an empty stomach. Therefore, a certain amount of physical nutrition should be given to help the process of spiritual, physical, evolutionary development if you are trying to teach the materially impoverished. Be willing to give to others and know that as you give, you become a part of the give and receive system of the entire universe. It is impossible to give and not receive in return, unless you yourself believe you live only on the supply from your work, your bank account, and investments. When this is what you believe, then this is what you will experience. Until people truly wake up and open their eyes to the full realization that they are the individualization of the source of their being, which is a combination of perfect impulses of creativity and love, they will remain attracted to the enticements of materialism, satisfactions of body lusts, and the desire for self-promotion above all others, which ranges from takeovers and strikes in business and industries and gross disharmonies in relationships to murder, rape, and war. Wherever a person exerts his ego over another, angry discords abound. This is the very first law of existence, which must be publicized throughout the world. How then should human nature strive daily to live in a world naturally dominated by ego drive, the overpowering desire for self-satisfaction? The answer lies in my statement: do to others as you would be done by. This is the first step to overcoming the ego drive. Do to others as you would be done by. When involved in an argument, let there be full justice rendered by each party to the other. Listen, absorb, heed, make amends as far as possible. Make certain that in your demands you do not make inroads on the well-being of the other party, be it personal, pleasure, business, or industry. Remember that as you do to others, so will eventually be done to you. Remember that your thoughts, words, and actions of today will take on form in your experience in days, months, or years to come. Sometimes the sowing will take years to grow into its harvest, and the sowing will have been forgotten. However, rest assured, whatever you do today will return to you in some related form, although you may never recognize it as such or perceive the connection. Whatever you would have people say about your mistakes, say those things and mean them about the mistakes that other people may make, friends or strangers. Give the acceptance and forgiveness you would like to receive. What is true forgiveness? It is a state of understanding the other person and their reasons for their behavior so clearly that you can say in all honesty, there is nothing to forgive. Wow. The loyalty, kindness, and generosity you would like to receive when in trouble, give to others when they are struggling with heavy burdens. Never turn to them a cold shoulder. Learn to look at a person or a situation with the eye of kindly discernment. See them as they are at this moment, and then remember that I see them with compassionate love. If you see a real need of improvement in them for their own good and the future enhancement of their well-being, look at them only with heart and eyes of love and see them as they can be in the future. Take them in thought to their source of being and know that your prayer has surely been blessed them and opened doors to their development. Seek guidance from divine consciousness as to whether you can broach the subject of their improvement, and ask how this may be done to ensure their happy acceptance of counsel and ultimate success in personal development. If someone wants to tell you how you have hurt them at any time, stand or sit quietly and still and know that this is a true challenge to your ego drive. This is your big moment, your greatest testing point. How will you handle it? Will you make excuses and defend yourself, considering even saying that your actions should not have hurt the other person and were fully justified in the circumstances? If this is how you respond, then your ego drive is still in perfect control of your consciousness. If, however, you can realize that the great moment of truth is upon you, and because of this awareness, you are able to remain quiet and calm, listening to the other person's descriptions of their hurt at your hands, you are succeeding in the first overcoming of your ego. The next urgent step is to put your own need to defend yourself firmly aside and sincerely empathize with what the speaker is saying. You will only be able to do this sincerely if you can be self-effacing enough to enter a place of inner silence, where you can fully enter into their hurt, hear what they are saying, and receive their pain into your heart. If you can do this, you will have got inside their skin. And when you can get inside their skin and feel their pain, you will want to apologize from the very bottom of your heart for what you did. The pain you inflicted ignorantly and unknowingly will become your own pain, and you will not rest until you have managed. Through loving words, to remove all residue of pain from the other person's consciousness. You will then have healed the hurt, and it will also be eliminated from your electromagnetic consciousness system. You have won a great victory over self. You will have reached that point of inner strength and endurance when you can truly perceive the reality of other people as being of equal validity with your own. You have recognized and accepted that others can be hurt by your actions in just the same way as you have been hurt by others. After reaching this great moment of truth in your life, you will find yourself able to move between yourself and others quite comfortably, able to see events from their perspective as easily as you can see your own. A great balancing between the needs of other people and yourself takes place, and you enter into a state of peace, since you are now confident that you treat others fairly and with generosity of spirit. You have now begun to remove the barriers between yourself and other people and are receiving them into your heart. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop right there. Thank you all very much for joining me. I love you all very much. And until I see you again, take care of yourself, take care of those around you. Bye-bye until next time.